Every Saturday, my family and I would go to the same brunch location, and I would sit in my normal corner. Even though the coffee on the table had cooled, I continued my customary practice of gently swirling it in order to maintain my composure. The focus was squarely on my sister Vivian, so no one gave me a second glance. Seated with her legs crossed, the diamond ring on her hand sparkled in the morning sunlight. She laughed so loudly that it resounded throughout the diner, claiming that your previous work was truly a bore. The fact that someone in their 30s is still unemployed is funny in a way. Her every word and pause was audible to me. Except for Vivian, no one else found her joke funny. I avoided her gaze. I merely pursed my lips and continued to stir my icy coffee. My mom said, "Vivian, you shouldn't act that way," in an uncomfortable way. However, all my sister did was shrug. She saw stillness as an indication of failure. The Eggs Benedict might have been a touch too salty. My dad tried to change the subject, but Vivian's grin remained, baited for an answer. I remained silent. My relatives always assumed I was uninterested because I was never the most outgoing person at parties. But the reality was that ever since I made the decision to remain in the background, silence had been my sanctuary, where I constructed a whole universe that none of them could fathom. My mind still jogs to the moment I had the epiphany that not everything worth having had to be flaunted. At the age of 27, I sat down with my college best friend Sam to type the initial lines of code that would become the basis of a sophisticated data analytics system utilized by financial institutions, healthcare facilities, and even government entities. At the age of 33, I helped launch the tech startup Dataloom, which is now worth more than $80 million. Since none. Contrary to popular belief, my immediate family is in the dark. There was no mention of me on the main page. During the interview process, Sam represented the company, while I opted to remain out of the limelight. The only places my name was mentioned were on Vivian's pay stub, investment agreements, and internal company records. Strange, isn't it? I co-founded this company, and now my sister, who has always been quick to make fun of my introversion, is applying there, totally oblivious that the person evaluating her application is the fufilier she has teased for years. I overheard her gushing about the accounting firm she had worked for before it went out of business. No worries, though, she simply shrugged it off. As far as solving problems is concerned, I am an expert. I'm taking aim at an untapped business. What is the deal with Dataloom? It was said they are recruiting. I felt a sudden racing heart. While eating, I raised my eyes to look up for the first time. Subsequently, I glanced down again, being cautious not to draw attention to the flutter in my eyes. She persisted. My application has already been submitted. If they hire me, I will be able to manage their finances more effectively than everyone else. It would be a shame for them to ignore me. To control my laughter, I chewed on my tongue. That arrogant and brazen statement was an exact replica of the one she used to hurl at me, asserting that I would achieve nothing by remaining hidden. Maybe she'll be oblivious to it all along. But it was in that darkness that I erected my kingdom, and she is going to enter it as my successor. Nonetheless, I opted to keep mum, not because I was afraid, but because I had faith that the facts would reveal all. My 12th birthday is still fresh in my mind. A huge golden trophy was seen by Vivian as she sprinted out of the living room, accompanied by the sound of "Happy Birthday." My mom hugged Vivian and beaming, she told me that our little one had won the state dance competition. I didn't even bother to blow out the candles as I stood beside my cake, watching them flicker. No one even bothered to ask what I wanted for my birthday. Vivian was always that way, loud, enthusiastic, and always making others applaud. Me. After stealthily collecting my presents, I retired to my room, booted up the ancient laptop my dad had given me a year prior, and continued to construct my inaugural data model. Nothing ever bored me, even when I was a little kid. I enjoyed disassembling things to figure out how they functioned. Deciding what made a video game work so well was always a thrill for me. I thoroughly liked the sensation of composing a block of code and then witnessing its faultless execution. My parents always said that Eleanor could sit quietly for hours. Our dad used to make the joke, "Guess which is it? We have a flashlight and a fireworks display in this house." No speculating required. While Vivian was the pyrotechnics, I was the steady but unnoticed flashlight. Our chasm deepened as we grew older. After pursuing art, Vivian's dramatic performances landed her a few TV appearances in her hometown. At a tech institute, I majored in computer science. The name of the school is a mystery to everyone in the family. The date was completely forgotten when I graduated. The introduction of Vivian's fashion business was too much for them to handle. None of this is my fault. There were moments when I wondered if maybe I wasn't captivating enough. Silence, though, was the place where my worth was revealed to me over time. 2 battered laptops and an idea for a versatile analytics system that could foretell users' actions in real time were all that Sam and I had when we launched Dataloom. It was Sam who spoke up. He was the one who organized meetings, interviewed journalists, and pitched to investors. Backstage, I was the one responsible for creating the code and addressing any bugs that came up. A large bank agreed to a trial period 1 year later. After 2 years, our solution was incorporated into systems that analyze risk, provide healthcare, and handle financial data. Dataloom was worth $83 million, or 0 cents, by the 3rd year. Among the stockholders, I was 49%. Who, though, would you dare interrupt? To them, Sam Fletcher is the only one. Eleanor Green, on the other hand, was never a headliner. And that was exactly what I had in mind. Hollow handshakes, flashing cameras, and murmurs behind my back were not to my liking. I yearned to put my skills to use by creating something that would aid others in making wiser choices. When Vivian's fashion business collapsed owing to poor financial management, she returned to her previous career in accounting at a local firm. Layoffs followed. She has no clue that I generated this new opportunity, but now she is putting all her eggs in my basket. She may never see me for what I am. I will forever be known to Vivian as the idealistic little sister who carries around a collection of outdated computers. However, she is about to enter a room where I created every wall, budget model, and analytics tool. Most importantly, I am curious about her reaction when she sees my name, Eleanor Green, in the lower right corner of her paycheck or the upcoming budget proposal. Can we be sure she'll see it? Will she still think I'm nothing more than a background character in the spectacular universe she seeks? I really hope she doesn't find out. When the truth finally sinks in, part of me wants to witness her reaction. Her adulation isn't necessary for me. I would prefer it if she would simply quit staring down on me. After the show that night, I returned to my peaceful 18th floor apartment to see the velvet curtain of soft mist enveloping Seattle sky. I got out my laptop and logged into Dataloom's internal system, which I was already familiar with thanks to the hundreds of lines of code and reports. Vivian Green, a recommended candidate, was the first HR notification to appear. With my gaze fixed on the file displayed on the screen, I reclined in my chair. Even though I was prepared for this, my heart skipped a beat. The application form had a photo of her wearing a beige blazer and smiling. I quickly went over her qualifications, expertise, and the internal reviewer's feedback. Apt for the position of budget analyst, exudes self-assurance and is an excellent communicator. I suggest you for the next interview round. The 3 dots in the corner were all I did. I didn't even type a word. Up came a pop-up that read, Forward, Code, Cop, Prom. Approve was the button I pressed. She was hired. Sam was the only one who knew I was a co-founder at the company. We have always agreed to use Sam's name exclusively in all official documents and media. I preferred not to have my likeness circulate online. I'd witnessed far too many individuals ruin their life for the sake of fame. I was self-satisfied. I craved independence. For all intents and purposes, I was just Eleanor, the senior technical advisor who often did remote work for Dataloom. On a weekly basis, after 6 o'clock, I would make my way into the office. For the most part, I was in charge of projects, reviewed budgets, and devised plans of action. From the shadows, everything unfolds. Sam was the one who visited tech conferences, shook hands with investors, and appeared on television. He never once compromised my privacy by disclosing my identity to anyone, including staff or the press. For a long time, I questioned whether I had made the correct choice. I knew that being silent was the only way to keep this moment intriguing as I watched Vivian step into the universe I created with my own hands. Consistent with our plan, I remained at home on her first day of work. Still, I activated the built-in camera system, which was something that only a select few were aware I had constructed. Standing in the communal kitchen on the 9th floor, I caught a glimpse of her as she stared at the digital bulletin board that showed the company's current projects. Her eyes were wide with amazement. She happily informed a coworker that this was the new employer that had employed her. The two founders reportedly have a high level of privacy. That other one has remained a mystery to all. This can merely serve as a temporary arrangement for legal purposes. A small laugh escaped me. Doubters about the second co-founder's existence weren't new to me. Sam Video contacted me later that day. As he sipped his coffee, he remarked that she was off to a good start. Secure, perhaps a little ostentatious, but capable. Can you confirm this for me? Eleanor, she has no clue who you are. I said, for the time being, let's maintain it that way. Stay on your toes. This is a fantastic chance for her if she is competent. If she isn't, the truth will be out sooner. The goal here was not vengeance. Neither revenge nor the failure of her was something I sought. What would Vivian do if no one acknowledged her? That's all I wanted to know. While the light was not shining. No applause from the crowd. 7 days elapsed. Second, 2. After hours, every time I visited the office, she had already departed. I managed to stick to my schedule, bringing nighttime budget approvals, sitting in the quiet of the empty halls and elevators, reviewing HR files. Until one day, while inspecting the security system in the basement server room, I heard the echo of high heels in the corridor. Upon exiting, I beheld her presence, detached from the entrance. "Hey there, Eleanor." Curious and taken aback, she inquired. Calmly, I gave a nod. "Good day." A squint formed on her face. "Why are you descending to this level? Entry to this section is restricted to senior managers only." My face lit up with joy. Then what? Seems like I have preferential treatment. Head slanted to one side. Just as I was about to speak, Sam emerged from the room across the hall, clutching a folder. "Great to meet you, Eleanor. Will you be able to review the new strategy for deploying AI? Please approve by Friday at the latest." I returned my gaze to Vivian after retrieving the file. She looked stunned. Words were superfluous. It was at that very second that I realized doubt had been sown. And now I'd notice. Would she see me at last? Or continue to see me as the innocent figure she always thought I was? Seattle experienced a slight drizzle that morning. My phone started ringing right after I approved the most recent quarterly report. Samantha was the one there. "Eleanor, I just had an interesting experience." He mentioned Vivian's growing curiosity with a tinge of humor. I raised my eyes to the television. An accounting-related email arrived in my inbox. The internal budget file has the NS signature. Kindly verify who has the power to approve. Anxiety set in. Someone had to do it. The formal day that Vivian became a budget analyst at Dataloom was almost 2 months ago. By that point, her self-assurance and persuasiveness had won over several departments. I had remained on the sidelines, silently endorsing her suggestions. But details began to pique her interest. The co-founder's ID code and an e-signature bearing the name Eleanor Green, NS, were discovered by Vivian during the approval of a marketing budget. I had a feeling she wouldn't accept that. The following morning, I overheard a brief discussion taking place in the downstairs cafe. A youthful co-worker spoke softly to Vivian. "Who the earth is this NS person? Just like an apparition in the code. I have never met them, but they are the final arbiters of major matters." Then Vivian grinned. "No more than a ceremonial head, I would guess. Without faces, I cannot trust a name. In the shadow of a wooden screen." My hold on my coffee cup became even more firm. Have doubts. Soon enough, she would find out. She skipped the planning process and went straight to accounting 3 days later to acquire the complete quarterly budget. Using her clearance, she proceeded to access file after file until she came to the one that contained my name multiple times. Next to papers detailing the financial foundation of Dataloom, signatures, dates, file IDs, and legal evaluations are all part of the paperwork. I was named on every crucial component. The sister who had thought I was a parasite due to my family's generosity was now staring at evidence that I wasn't your average worker. The decision to authorize her paycheck was mine to make. The one responsible for the reports that she was tasked with editing daily. A system alert was sent to me that afternoon. Vivian Green's Dartag Data Loom account is requesting access to the company's internal records. Finally, she had made it to the master file. As I imagined her perched there, the first flicker of blue light casting a gentle glow on her face, I could almost feel the weight of the founding documents upon her. Eleanor Green and Samuel Fletcher were married. Split the ownership in half. Role description: Director of Technical Architecture. Hi there, Ms. Green. She probably felt her heart tighten. Her name was familiar to me. She remains silent and composed in the face of horror. She stops talking, yet her gaze is fiery. Subsequently, she begins pressing her case. We must be dreaming. I was unusually early to the office that same day. I yearned to witness her response firsthand. As I stepped inside the pantry, I beheld Vivian standing solitary, her hands clenched on the counter as she gazed intently at a printed page. I walked up slowly. Are you all right? Furious and bewildered, she turned around and stared directly into my eyes. Her voice clenched as she spoke to Eleanor. Did you co-found the company? I took a moment to respond. All I did was nod. She requested the duration. My response has been composed from the start. Back when you believed I was out of work, Sam and I launched our company in a little room on Capitol Hill. Vivian let out a bitter rather than a sarcastic chuckle. Skepticism and a dash of self-aggrandizement. My paycheck has been signed by you the whole time. Did I work for you? I gave another nod. Just going about my business, Vivian. Nothing to brag about. I'm happy to promote you because you're qualified. Had you not been, I would have acted in reverse. Without speaking a word, her gaze dipped to the floor. Out of my pocket, I withdrew a sheet. Planned expenditures for a planned program to provide low-income youth with technical education. We will soon be releasing this. I believe you would be an excellent match if you are interested. The document was not taken by her. Yet, a shift occurred in them. There was a change. I did not push her as I turned to depart. Her time is limited. However, I finally caught a glimpse of a silent inquiry rather than scorn in her eyes after all these years. When did I ever underestimate my younger sister? Held in a glass structure on Lake Union, the 5-year Dadalium Anniversary Gala had chandelier light rippling across the floor. Looking into the mirror, I stood in the dressing room for guests. A gown of ebony length. Sleek and sophisticated. Adhere closely to a physique that has seen its fair share of late-night workouts. Soft pink brushed across my lips as my hair was gently pinched. I tried to blend in as much as possible, but it had become irrelevant. With a peek inside, Sam knocked. All right, Eleanor. Hardly did I swallow. I don't think so. It seems like nobody is ever completely prepared to come out of their shell, though. He chuckled. You are not going outside. Standing tall, you are. We made our way from the wings onto the stage as the lights went down. Just now, the MC had concluded. Presenting Dadalium's 2 co-founders, please join me in welcoming them. Eleanor Green plus Samuel Fletcher. Roaring ovation ensued. Roaring, crystal clear, energizing. When I first emerged into the light, formally and without a mask, all eyes were on me. My face lit up with joy. Calmly yet determinedly. Then I laid eyes on Vivian. With one hand firmly gripping an unfinished champagne glass, she stood at the rear of the room. Looked shocked. Everything changed for her. I was familiar with the emotion. That was my life. When we received our first $1 million investment, it was like a light went on that everyone could see. First, Sam spoke. From his mom's garage to Dadalium's present headquarters, he recounted our entire journey. Regarding 2 o'clock server crashes and deadlines that rendered us keyboard drowning. The audience went hushed as he handed the microphone to me. I drew a long breath. Welcome, everyone. My name is Eleanor Green. I assume that many of you have never laid eyes on me before. The audience let forth a soft chuckle. It was sincere. Warm surprise, that was it. I went on to say, I've never thought I'd be up here, and that I'm terrible at public speaking. 2 things did Sam and I have, though, 5 years ago. There was a notion and a belief that trust might be the foundation for technology. My eyes swung to the spectators below. Even without her drink in hand, Vivian remained standing there. As if attempting to comprehend a total stranger posing as a familiar face, her gaze was locked onto mine. "The public does not perceive me as representing this corporation," continued I, "and I made that decision on my own. However, I felt obligated to be here today, motivated by gratitude rather than fame." A round of applause ensued. When the MC was ready to conclude the event, I stepped back and nodded to show my appreciation. With the evening lights turning on, I stalked the buffet in search of a peaceful spot to eat. However, someone would stop me to talk at every turn. "We thought you were a legend," one software engineer remarked with a sidelong laugh. "I had no idea you were real." I grinned and responded courteously. However, thoughts of Vivian kept resurfacing in my head. Looking over, I saw the pillar she had been standing on. No content. She departed. She may or may not have heard any of what I said, and I had no idea when she had left. I sensed a sensation, though. I feel a void slowly forming up within me, where a comforting gaze from a loved one should have been. I took off my shoes and collapsed onto the couch that night in my apartment. Countless messages of congratulations from coworkers and business associates flooded my phone. Oh, and my folks, too. "My darling, we couldn't be prouder of you. The experience is indescribable." However, Vivian did not respond. After getting halfway through my speech, I paused the webcast of the event on the company website and watched it again. Rewatching it was unnecessary. One item is all I needed to know. When all eyes were on Vivian, what did she see? An unknown individual? Not to mention her little sister, whom she had previously written off as unimportant. It was 2 days prior to the gala that I showed up to work earlier than normal. Neither for a meeting nor for document approval. Finally, a private matter. In the meeting room on the 10th floor, I retrieved a little walnut box that I had preserved since my college days and unlocked its drawer. Within, I stashed a notebook bound in navy linen. Just a pen with black ink, along with a handwritten note. Even writing a few sentences took more than an hour of my time. Nothing flashy. Lacking elegance. Sincere, I promise. Vivian, name. Your work at Datalim is much appreciated. You're wonderful, and I have faith in your abilities. Collaborating with you is an honor, no matter how quietly we started. Little Eleanor. With a subtle signal, I folded the card, placed it inside the notebook, and passed it to the internal delivery helper. Vivian Green needs this. Unidentified sender. Reaction. Not at all. This was not an olive branch. It was a gift. All it was an unlocked door. Relaxed and unhurried. In order for her to pass through if she so desired. Nothing happened over the remainder of the week. Missing email. Excuse me, but no. A couple things did stand out to me, though. At meetings, Vivian sat up straight and stopped crossing her arms. In addition to providing concentrated feedback, she began taking thorough notes and asking perceptive questions. I listened one afternoon as she laid forth a new plan to rein in spending on an artificial intelligence project that had ballooned out of control. She spoke in a clean, serene voice. Something more rarefied her gaze than competitiveness had before. Pay attention. Nobody ushered me in. Silently nodding, I remained standing there with my hands in my pockets. A new internal sponsorship program for junior employees, particularly female interns in technology positions, was introduced the next week by HR, thanks to Vivian's proposal. She suggested using some of the CSR funds to organize free career seminars given by various department heads. I took my time and read the proposal 3 times. Name the initiative, tap the screen, tap the future. Also, the italicized version follows, drawing inspiration from Eleanor Green's unassuming aim. Resting the file on the table, I delicately pursed my lips. My customary afternoon pit trip was at the pantry. There was Vivian, filling a tea carafe with hot water. We both stood there motionless for an instant as she pivoted to face me. Her expression was more subdued this time. Calm down. Not being defensive. At that moment, she broke the silence. I love this pen. Along with the notepad. Some pages have been written. Her gaze caught mine. Thank you for your positive review. She nodded slightly. Yes, You are someone I never truly grasped. Then again, maybe I was never really brave enough to try. Without responding, I grinned. I have something to say, she continued, her voice barely audible. I didn't need you to give me an opportunity. No, you accomplished it. And you completely avoided discussing it. To make a point, you didn't put me down. More so than anything else, that reveals who you are. I no longer perceived Vivian as the adolescent strutting her stuff with a prize in her hand. Losing pride was something I witnessed a woman working on, while actually seeing other people. The speaker spoke slowly, expressing uncertainty about their ability to execute it well. Yet I will make an effort. As a burden was lifted from my heart, I bowed. There is no need to add up the years. We will begin today. For an additional moment, we remained side by side. Neither an explanation nor an apology is necessary. A simple comprehension. Everything would be different this time. Plus, in some way they were. At some point, Vivian learned to keep her voice down. She became better at listening and shared the stage with younger people. And she did not shrink from challenges she had previously considered too difficult. Additionally, I came out from behind my screen. No longer did I duck and cover the camera as I spoke at technical briefings. I discussed my journey while standing before visiting pupils. I don't mean to brag, but I want to demonstrate that being the most vocal person doesn't guarantee success. I passed Vivian in front of the recognition wall one Saturday afternoon on my way out of the office. This is the quarterly contributions list. She was at the very top. A little nod came from her as she met my gaze. I appreciate you sticking with me. My face lit up with joy. Vivian, we're only at the beginning. Everyone in the family met up at our regular brunch location near Green Lake on Sunday. As usual, everything was in its usual place. The room is filled with the aroma of freshly made waffles, light streaming in through the striped curtains, and dark wood furniture. But there was a distinct change in the atmosphere. My parents, Uncle Henry, Aunt Laura, and Vivian were sitting at the big table on the balcony with me. She was 5 minutes late, but she was missing her signature glittery shoes and revealing outfit, just a white blouse, dark trousers, hair pulled back in a tidy knot, and no makeup. Her gaze froze as she drew near me, but a tiny nod eventually passed between us. And I did the same. Speak not a word. Quick glance. I was satisfied. Uncle Henry interrupted my mom as she was describing her new flower bed with a startled laugh and then looked across to me. I was wondering if you were still performing that side gig from home, Eleanor. Alternatively, spending all day entering random computer codes? My face lit up with joy. I should not be shocked. The idea that programming was merely an enhanced video game persisted in his mind. A distinct voice suddenly boomed out, and I barely had a chance to respond. As Vivian laid her coffee down and stared ahead, she called out to her uncle. I would not be where I am now if it weren't for Eleanor, the brightest person I've ever met. She was the center of attention. My head was slightly inclined. Contrary to her customary behavior when glamorized, Vivian didn't duck or hide. Standing tall, her gaze fixed, and her voice resolute. I used to think I knew everything, she continued. However, there is something more valuable than knowledge that Eleanor imparted to me. Lowly self-esteem. She is not silent because she is not interested in talking. It denotes that she opts to perform rather than flaunt. Uncle Henry appeared taken aback. A tiny nod was given by Aunt Laura. My mom softly held my hand as she reached over. I remained silent. I merely gazed upon her. Words fail me, but that expression spoke it all. Respect, thanks, and an implicit apology. Distinguished, not by feud, but by honesty. The subject returned to the weather and impending holidays not long after. However, I was aware that a significant event had just transpired. As the last diners left the table, I got to my feet to collect my belongings. With her jacket in hand, Vivian crossed over. Her silence was deafening. You are under no need to forgive me, she whispered as she walked by. Unfortunately, I will never regain my former self. Her gaze caught mine. I smiled at her with sincerity for the first time in what seemed like an eternity. I acknowledged it. It was unnecessary for you to apologize to me. We departed silently from the brunch spot. Still, we had resolved any lingering tension. Nobody forgot what had transpired. However, it was no longer an internal wound for me. I returned home that afternoon, brewed some tea, fired up my laptop, and gazed out the window at Lake Union. I was enjoying a warm cup of tea when suddenly a message from Sam appeared on my screen. It was said that brunch today was really good. Yes, I said. All right, I'll give it that. A fresh start. Perhaps there are instances when words are insufficient to convey forgiveness. It emerges when individuals perceive one another through the lens of sincere understanding rather than judgment. There will never be a perfect sisterhood between Vivian and myself. However, we are no longer opposing factions. We're both mature ladies who have grown up and made our fair share of mistakes. And I think that's a lovely way to wrap up one chapter. And a gentle transition into the following. Something I learned from my experience with Vivian is that sometimes, real transformation is more effective than great apologies in bringing about understanding. Being noticed isn't everything. I had to learn it the hard way. However, there is no need for a response if the reality is fully recognized. When individuals are quiet, it stimulates them to think. Living a real life doesn't demand flawlessness, but rather the bravery to evolve and the mercy to start over. The adventure of Eleanor and Vivian. What are your thoughts about it? Can a relationship that appeared broken be repaired with a late understanding? Give your opinion. Subscribing to the channel will allow you to see more touching family stories like this one.